So
Fair enough. Let's get started.
okay, hang on here. Are we live on YouTube? Okay,
Good.
all set.
All right. This is August 19th and it's 1:01 p.m. and we'll call the regular Board of Commissioners meeting for Fire District 21 to order. Start with the roll call. I'm Bruce Ansell.
Scott Fisher.
Sean Crawford.
Kimberly McMurray.
Jason Vanderveen.
Rich Bosman is excused from this meeting. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I guess it's we'll turn our backs to the camera. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. No public comment today. All right, we'll open the Volunteer Pension Board meeting at 1:02 p.m. The item to take care of is the approval of the July 15th minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Close the pension board meeting and open the regular Board of Commissioners meeting at 1:02 p.m. Item 1, approval of the consent agenda, which includes the July 15th meeting minutes, staff reports, the financials. And I will read total revenue for July was $133,492.34. Total expenditures for August were $829,191.03. Direct deposit payroll, $355,283.19. Payroll taxes, $77,721.52. Benefits vouchers, $219,465.87. Monthly expenditure voucher, $100,729.99. Capital projects facilities, $10,150. Capital projects apparatus, $34,085.50. Capital projects apparatus number 2, $31,754.96. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion, questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Commissioner meeting reports. Don, did you?
Yep, keep it brief. 911 subcommittee members are looking at a couple of site visits here when they can organize them, and they're still ongoing. Fire department did try to pull a vote to table all issues until the first of the year, and that was rejected. So we're still ongoing.
Site visit for,
I believe a couple of county council members and your Linden City Mayor are going to go to Spokane, is what I was told. So they're going to be looking at their communications center.
anyone else? The chief and I met with Commissioner Land from District 4. That was on the 6th of August regarding the failure of both of our levy lid lift measures, as well as the upcoming contract for 2022, which is on our agenda today to have some discussion about that. And where we're going with the RFA proposal. I think regardless of the levy outcomes, our intent is to proceed with the RFA process. We're gonna need to figure out a funding mechanism one way or another. So if the levy lid lifts are unsuccessful, then we'll have to throw it out again as part of the RFA. So We're gonna get this thing eventually. We're just gonna keep plugging away, so. Legal issues. So we have proclamation 21-14 COVID-19 vaccine requirement. And we've invited our legal counsel, Mr. Davis, here today to enlighten us on where we stand. I've certainly read a lot between the state council and the fire chiefs, et cetera. But perhaps you can enlighten us.
I will try. Good afternoon, commissioners. Let me start with what happened yesterday. You probably heard that the governor had another order that was being implemented that applies to schools in the state, but it also applies to masking requirements. And the Secretary of Health's order came out today. It's effective on Monday, August 23rd. And it essentially says that masks will be required whenever you're indoors, regardless of your vaccination status. The only exemption, there's a few minor exemptions to that. The primary one is if you have a medical reason why you can't be masked. The other one is if you're sitting in your office alone or something like that, where you're not interacting with somebody else. You could be without a mask, but during your next commission meeting and you know, the employees at the district will have to be masked as of Monday, August 23rd. With regards to the recent proclamation from the governor dealing with mandatory vaccinations for healthcare providers, there was a bit of a confusion when that was rolled out. Originally, we didn't think that it was going to apply to local governments like regional fire authorities and fire districts, but sure enough, it does. And that was the governor's intent for it to apply. And what it says is that by October 18th, healthcare providers, which is essentially anyone that holds a first aid card or is certified by the Department of Health, they are required to be fully vaccinated, which means they have to have taken their second dose of the vaccine, if it's a 2-dose vaccine, or received their first dose with the appropriate waiting period. So essentially, if you back up the dates, you have to have your vaccine dose by October 4th. And that's the final dose, whether it's a single Johnson & Johnson or the second dose of the mRNA vaccine. And the governor provided for 2 types of exemptions, which are exemptions guaranteed by various laws, such as Title VII and disability laws. One is a medical disability. So if someone has some kind of health condition that would, you know, they're under a doctor's order not to get the vaccine, that there's a risk that could make them worse, they can get a medical exemption. The other type of exemption is a religious objection or exemption. So if someone indicates that they have a sincerely held religious belief and can explain how that religion affects their inability to get a vaccine. In other words, that their belief is that they cannot be injected with the vaccine. If they can explain that, then that provides an exemption as well. What we're finding is that there are quite a few exemptions coming in on the religious basis. And, you know, the skeptic would say that maybe these are not all legitimate. I've seen a handful of them, and some look fairly specious, but the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has issued guidance saying that by and large, you're not really entitled to kind of pry into the reasons or the sincerely held belief. If you had objective evidence that the individual doesn't really have that belief, or that the religion that they are citing to doesn't really have that tenet in their faith, then you can inquire further. But for the most part, you know, you kind of got to take them at their word. The Now, if somebody has an exemption, either for medical or religious reasons, you have to enter into a discussion with them about a reasonable accommodation. We've issued some guidance, and we've sent a memo over to the chief, which has some suggestions for reasonable accommodations. Each one of these exemptions, though, so if anybody who comes in with an exemption, you have to talk with them individually and discuss a reasonable accommodation, whether you can offer that and so that they can still perform their job as a healthcare provider. And certain steps seem to us to be accommodations that in most cases are probably going to be reasonable, such as always wearing a mask, perhaps frequent COVID testing. I don't know how frequent, it's kind of a business decision. It could be every couple of days, or it could be every shift, could be once a week, something like that. And social distancing whenever possible. Those kinds of steps seem to us to be some accommodations. There are other kinds of accommodations. You could transfer the individual so that they're not doing healthcare, they're not providing healthcare services, that they're reassigned within the department to do administration. That's probably not a reasonable accommodation. It's probably an undue hardship on many districts to do that. Paid administrative leave might be another one. You can kind of imagine a bunch of different accommodations, some of which would be reasonable and others which would not be. So this takes effect October 18th. If someone refuses to get the vaccine and they don't have an exemption by that date, then under the governor's order, you are required by law to not have them perform healthcare services, which in most cases is going to mean letting them go, separating them from employment on a non-disciplinary basis. Essentially, what this is they fail to meet a bona fide occupational qualification. This order has the force and effect of law, and if the district were not to follow it, the commissioners, the fire chief, anybody making these decisions could be charged with a gross misdemeanor. Whether the prosecutors decide to actually prosecute violations, I don't know, but there is that risk available. There's also potential L&I penalties for failing to comply with it, because there is an emergency L&I rule that was issued earlier this year saying that you need to comply with all governor proclamations, and failure to do so could subject you to fines from the Department of L&I. So that's kind of that's the overall structure. We've gotten just a lot of questions on this issue. In terms of the proof of vaccination, I comment on that. Under the prior proclamation, employees could come in with a personal attestation form. They didn't have to actually show their vaccination card or other proof of vaccination. This most recent proclamation says that's no longer good. So if we had an employee who brought in a personal attestation before, that doesn't work now. They now have to provide one of three forms of proof. They have to show their vaccination card, or they have to have documentation from their healthcare provider that they've been vaccinated, or the state immunization information system record can be used as well. We don't have to keep those records at the district. We can. We kind of have a choice. We can keep a copy and put it into a separate file, not their personnel file, but like a separate medical file, or we can just have somebody at the district who's designated to look at each of the vaccination proofs that's submitted to ensure that it meets the governor's order. And then we keep a list of all of our employees who have presented that proof. So I think that's kind of all. There will be, of course, the ability for the union to bargain the impacts and effects of this. They don't get to bargain the decision because this is a governmental order. You are bound to follow this. And so it's in the law, it's what's called a legal necessity. You're not required to bargain the decision, but you can expect the local will probably want to bargain the impacts and effects of this mandate. And we have suggested that each district adopt a policy with the kind of incorporating the terms of the governor's order into the policy, so that it's an official district policy, and we provided a template in our materials to the chief in that regard. So that's kind of the overall view of this. If there's any specific questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them.
This resolution that was drafted, did everyone get a chance to look at that? Or did that go, that was in our packet? It was not in the packet, the resolution not in the packet. Okay. So have you seen the resolution on? John, have you seen it? Right.
Came out from the Washington Fire Commissioners Association.
Okay, so it came out as a separate document from Commissioner Crawford. So I guess if we get everybody a chance to look at that, and I don't know, has the local seen that document? I guess, Chief, I would leave it up to you. My thought is that we table that until our next meeting and everyone gets a chance to digest it versus moving on that today. It's kind of a brand new piece of information, and it would be nice.
Probably gonna be fluid as well.
It was not my intention for us to take any action on it today. I honestly need to digest what Mr.
Right.
Davis sent to us and then put that in, get that out to you all so you can read it. Because it does have potential far-reaching effects, and with what Commissioner Crawford said, the fluidity of it. I mean, they just changed the world for teachers yesterday. All, anybody that's in education had kind of the whole world flipped on them yesterday. It's obviously it's still evolving.
Right. And Richard, are you familiar with I think several fire districts have fired off a letter to the governor objecting to the proclamation. Are you familiar with that most recent communication?
Yes. Well, I don't know if I'm familiar with most recent one. I've certainly seen several communications. Yes.
So I would expect there could, maybe be some changes or modifications or based on some of that, or it's a done deal.
My information is the governor's not moving on the proclamation. I don't expect to see any changes, honestly. I think those discussions have happened at the state level down in Olympia, and the governor, what I understand is the governor has reconfirmed that, no, I meant what I said, and it's going to cover all healthcare providers, which includes your responders. So I don't expect to see any changes.
Okay. So we should put this on our unfinished business for next meeting. And hopefully between now and then, we'll have a little bit more information on our direction and discussions with labor, and
Hopefully it'll just settle down and remain consistent for a week. 'Cause it seems to be changing.
yeah, well, it's pretty hot off the press stuff.
Yep.
So, all right. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? Item 2 is the 2022 contract for services with District 4. The chief and I had a brief discussion with Commissioner Land about our need to get this done, regardless of whether the levy lid lifts pass in either district. And I think we made it fairly clear that the cost for services needs to be more reflective of what our actual cost is, not the formula that has been used historically. And Richard, I think we spoke a while back saying that it might just be prudent to use the existing language for now, and then modify the term of the agreement, which should be a 1-year contract, January 1, 2022 through December 31. and then a analysis of what the true cost for service is to staff that station. And I guess we'll have to work with the chief and Benita to figure that out. I think we've been tracking that information more closely this past year and should be able to somehow interject that formula into the document. Do you have any other areas that we need to address, Richard?
No, I think that's right. I mean, this is intended really to kind of be a bridge agreement, right? Just short term. And if the RFA measure passed, it would be effective. No later than October. It'd have to be effective by October 1. So it's a short-term deal. My thought was just what you said, Commissioner Ansel, and that is, if both parties are okay, pretty much leave the language as is rather than get down and try and negotiate a bunch of changes. But then if you want to discuss the costs portion of that, that's something that can easily be changed. But I think the remainder of it can largely go unchanged. And then we would have what would be called kind of a transitional agreement or an ILA that would implement the terms of the RFA plan if that measure were to pass the voters. So that could be handled via a separate agreement.
Okay, so I guess what we need to do is come up with a number and figure out what that's going to be. And it's, like I said, it's no secret to their board chair that this is coming. And he seems to understand that we need to be reimbursed for the full amount of what it's costing us to provide their service. So I can work with you and we'll get those numbers together and then get a hold of you, Richard, and then kind of wordsmith the final.
So this is just on the end of the year, correct?
This will be for next year, 2022.
Okay.
Because we're under contract right now with them under the existing agreement where they pay 25%. After looking at the numbers more carefully, we found that doesn't cover our expense. So we need to charge them for what it costs, especially since they're the ones that asked to
Line item, everything.
well, also to end the agreement. So we will renegotiate a one-year agreement that pays the true cost. So that's my opinion, but if anyone has another idea, I'd be happy to entertain it. All right. And I think we might revisit this in the executive session as well, as far as numbers, et cetera. So any other legal issues that are invading your desk these days?
Well, I mean, the other one, of course, is HB 1310. I really haven't talked to the chief too much about the impacts that he may have seen from that, but that's the new law that essentially deals with de-escalation of force by law enforcement. And some agencies are experiencing a real change by law enforcement. They're not responding to certain types of calls that they previously did respond to if there's no crime being committed, if nobody is in immediate danger of being injured. They're either not responding or sometimes they're leaving the scene. And that is putting responders in some challenging positions. And so the question has come up as to the liability of the district if it makes a decision when responders get to the scene, if it's dangerous for them, and law enforcement either refuses to respond or they leave. when can the district make the decision to, or the officer in charge make the decision to leave the scene as well? And is there liability from that? We provided a memorandum recently analyzing that. I'm pretty sure it made it to Chief Vanderveen. We are continuing to look at that issue and trying to develop, in conjunction with some other fire district attorneys in the state, some protocols, with the goal being to develop at the policy, for the most part, at the policy level, or where, where the commission would pass a policy kind of giving some guidance, because that is where you find the greatest amount of immunity from potential lawsuits. But this is an area that's rapidly evolving. I would expect some revisions to the legislation, because I think it was passed largely without input from EMS and the effects on responders. So it's something that's in flux. We're going to be talking about it quite a bit at the Washington Fire Commissioners Association conference in October. That and the mandatory vaccination is pretty much going to consume our legal committee meeting on Wednesday. So it's something we'll be back in touch with, but right now we just know that it's a problem, and we're trying to develop some protocols that can give some further guidance to departments, and we'll issue that as soon as we have it put together. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, next item is local 106. Any report?
Yeah, we have a couple of things, most of which have been talked about. Obviously, the levy didn't pass. It was kind of a collective failure, so to speak, on the locals' part. So I take fault, or I accept responsibility for that. The other thing is the letter has been sent to chief with the intent to negotiate the impacts of the law enforcement and the mandated vaccines, and kind of go along with the attorney saying we have seen a substantial increase in what they're calling PD unknown calls. I mean, I went on 2 of them yesterday, so we're starting to see a lot of that stuff, and where PD is not, law enforcement is not showing up. So chief has been great with working with us on what we should do and not do, and it's definitely fluid, and we're trying to figure it out as we go, but we are already seeing a pretty big increase in those calls. Kind of what I got, and then we're just working towards the November levy. Already got a plan in place and start spearheading that. So
Okay, thank you. Unfinished business. The first item is the levy lid lift issue. Chief, would you?
Yeah, we've had our period of reflection, and we're just moving on towards November. There's nothing to continue to hit what happened in August is not going to serve us well. We're just trying to take lessons learned. So I've been in contact with the comms team. We've met and are formulating a more we don't want to go with a depressing message, but maybe a more realistic message, or here's option A, here's option B, and these are the 2 options. Formulating a plan to get out and talk to some of the people that we think have a little more, I'll use the word juice on the east side, especially in social media land. Commissioner McMurray's been wonderful about offering a meeting with, I think, someone that's very important. And my son just happened to actually sell his pig to him this week. So there we go. As well as talking with Heather Logan and Chris Fawcett, we just, now we have data, which is something we didn't have before. So there is a silver lining to this cloud. We know where our yeses come from, and we know where a majority of our no's come from. And it's going to be incumbent upon us to educate people that the November election is really, really important. We can't come back and find your ballot sitting on your kitchen counter the day after the election and go, oh darn, I meant to turn that in. So it's going to be a get out the vote message, which is always important, as well as giving them the reality of where we're at and where we'd like to go and why we need to get there. We've got some good feedback from our messaging. speaking to both volunteers and community members. I think there's a way for us to dial in our words, just the literal words that we used. So you'll see some changes about that. But I remain optimistic. There's no point in being down in the dumps about it. We will move forward. And I'm hoping that the citizens with some more dialed in financial information, it appears a lot of the feedback we got was that they wanted more specific financial information. And so I've been data mining that over the last week. I did some of that. We're going to compare inflation versus revenue increases versus age of rigs. And Chris Fawcett already has a great idea in her head of how we can make it simple, digestible, but really informative, and people want the raw numbers. They want to know how much tax revenue we've gotten over the years and how much it's increased. The thought is out there in social media world that because their taxes have gone up are 40%, that our revenues have gone up 40%, and that's not actually true. But we need to prove that. We need to show the people that. I think we're also going to have to hit our website a little harder, put some more info on our website, and just, I think having the local on board with a plan will be immensely helpful in getting out the word. But that's what I've got for the levy lid lift.
Can we get the map printed out? Jenny, I don't know if you can copy and paste that where we have.
We actually have all that data. And I've been remiss. I assigned Jenny a big project that's not her normal thing. So she's been kind of overwhelmed with that right now. Once we hit Tuesday, yes, we'll get that map. And what we did was we broke it into yeses and nos, and then high yes. So where we had 100 or more votes positive, and then high no's where we had 100 or more votes of no above the yeses. So we do have that precinct by precinct. We've got.
Is it on a geographic map?
It is
it's just a spreadsheet.
Nope, it's on a map. We've got a map that's got the actual precincts drawn out so we can see the neighborhoods
Right.
where our message is not resonating. So like I said, I assigned her kind of a big project that she doesn't normally do. And so she's been very patient with me.
Well, thank you, Jenny. All right. Yeah, and then I think we're going to reach out and meet you and I with the Delta
Yes,
group
with the
in the near
volunteers.
future.
Yep,
So let me know. We'd be every.
would be on a Monday,
So it'd be
correct?
a Monday. If you
Yep.
can get me that date, we can go have that discussion out there. Answer their questions. Facilities.
The two facility projects that have been kind of on the burner is one is getting bay doors painted. We got 3 bids finally. We awarded a bid. We're getting that all scheduled. I don't have the actual dates when he's going to start. Chief Ward has been working on that. The other piece is in facilities. I'm going to ask you for permission to spend money out of capital facilities to upgrade the HVAC systems at Station 63. There is currently no AC at Station 63. They've got single pane windows. That brick building is an actual hot box in the summer, and the heating has been, even when I worked there, spotty at best in the winter. So it's a cook in the summer, freeze in the winter type station. Based on the discussion that we had just moments ago at the levy lid lift, I don't see us replacing that station in the next few years. So we need to make it livable for our firefighters. We need to make it a place of refuge where they can actually get a nap, get a sleep, eat a meal in comfort before they're going out on these calls. And so the bids, what I'm going to ask is that we be allowed to spend up to $65,000 to upgrade the HVAC systems. What we got bids for, we got 3 bids for mini split systems. would go in the officer's room, the bunk room, the day room, and the office. There would be, it would be two separate systems so that it's not always heat, always cold. So it actually allows the heads to work differently. If the officer wants it a little bit warmer, the firefighters in the bunk room don't have to cook because those spaces are just so different. The bids all came in right around at the 55,000. We got three, like I said, we got three bids: Linen Sheet Metal, West Mechanical. I don't want to say Mars Heating was the third, but I can't remember exactly the name. None of them bid for the electrical side of it. That's always, apparently they bid for the HVAC side, and the electrical doesn't come in until after they start their work. So the bids were 55K. I'm asking for an additional 10 to cover the electrical side of it.
So do you need a motion?
I would love to have a motion to permission to spend up to that.
Richard, as far as our bid rules, et cetera, are we missing anything here? We've gotten 3 bids. The board just needs to give the chief approval to move forward with one of those bids. We haven't missed a step here anywhere.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to allow the chief to spend up to $65,000 for the HVAC system for Station 63.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
There you go, chief. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And just so you know, there's more than adequate funds in capital facilities for that. So it's not a.
Understood. All right, the next item, and it's nice to hear that the doors are going to get painted one of these days. I appreciate that.
Yep.
And as long as we're on that, we had a great, it's under correspondence, but I'm going to go out of order. The Station 62 work party was, in my opinion, a success. We had a lot of help from a couple of on-duty crews as well as other staff members and commissioners and commissioners' family out there cleaning things up. I think it really looks awesome. And I appreciate everyone coming out and doing that. And then understand that Commissioner Crawford took it upon himself to go out another day and pressure wash the green stuff off of the one side of the building, and it looks really good. I rode my bike by there the other day. So thanks to everyone who did that. I think we got a lot of community members up there in Semiahmoo who either stopped by the day that we were out there, or even when Commissioner Crawford was out there, people came by and
A lot of dog walkers out.
yeah, but express their appreciation for what we were doing out there, and hopefully that will translate to support at the next levy lid lift measure. So thanks to all those that participated in that process. Law enforcement response, we've kind of hit that. Mr. Davis gave us sort of an update. Is there anything new that or additional you want to add?
No, but I was, Scott kind of stole my thunder, but I was going to tell you that I had received a letter from the local asking to bargain the impacts of the changes in the law and the increased call volume. I don't have the number of call volume increase. I will bring that to you, or I'll get that out to you via email. But I can tell you that there is an increase. I'm actually going on some of these calls myself just to free up our ambulances from going to look for weird stuff. It's new and uncharted. I have asked for meetings with the Blaine Police Chief and the Sheriff. The Blaine Police Chief had an emergency come up during our scheduled meeting, so we weren't able to meet. We're going to reschedule. The Sheriff, I'm still working on scheduling. That's a little harder, I guess.
We've kind of laid out the data on the advisory board, and the projected increase in calls is probably going to be 16,000 countywide for next year. So that's about 1,000 calls additional for each district.
Right. it's not, I would have guessed it at the 20% mark, and that's about 20% for us. So
Just kind of what we're guessing at this point.
I understand the city of Bellingham is working on putting together a unit that will be for Bellingham only. Nothing's been talked about in the county or how that would work in the county. I think that there was maybe some momentum from the chiefs getting together and talk about this until last Thursday when the vaccine mandate came out, and now everybody's working on what staffing looks like after the 18th of October. So we did, from the county chiefs, we did get we got a nice email from an explanatory email from the undersheriff explaining a little bit more about how call criteria goes in and how decisions are being made. But it really looks like it's almost a shift by shift, sergeant by sergeant decision on how this thing gets implemented. So some policy would be great to have from chiefs statewide. I don't know that any one person could do this, figure this all out by themselves. It's going to take a legal team to figure out how we respond to this. But the message I'm giving our crews right now is be safe. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Look at every call like it's a fire, do a 360, make that assessment before you commit yourself. And it appears that for the second time in our careers, we're going through a cultural change, just like we did with COVID. This House bill is causing a cultural shift in the fire department, that we're no longer just running into calls to help people out. It's definitely changed the way we do things. So everybody's been great about being patient, but I know there's a lot of frustration around this, and are we doing enough to protect our people?
Yeah, I might,
Go ahead.
Oh, may I intervene for just a second?
Yes, please.
So it is interesting. WCAI had a conference, the insurance company that insures cities. They had a conference about a week ago or so, primarily designed for cities, as to how they minimize their liability as a result of this. There have been no corresponding conferences that I'm aware of for fire departments. I reached out to Gordon McElvaney, and I didn't hear back from him as to whether anything might be coming down the pike. But the cities are actively involved in determining how to, minimize their liability. They're fully expecting cases to be filed, and I would expect the same to occur whenever a fire department chooses either not to respond or when they pull away from the scene. And unfortunately, one of the major protections that we've constantly relied upon, the public duty doctrine, was seriously narrowed just 2 weeks ago by a Division I Court of Appeals case involving the City of Seattle Municipal Fire Department. But in that case, so the public duty doctrine, as you've heard me explain before, says if you owe a duty to the entire public, you don't owe a duty to any particular member of the public. So our thought was, whenever you go out on a call, if you treat a patient negligently, you're not liable, because that's a duty that you have to the public as a whole. And that had been everybody's understanding for a long time. Division I came out and said, you know what, when the City of Seattle Fire Department made it late to a call, they got some bad directions, and the patient, I think the patient died or had a serious medical event. The court said, you don't have a mandate to provide EMS services. You, the Seattle City Fire Department, don't have a mandate, so you're not covered by the public duty doctrine. Well, that's pretty surprising. We all thought we had a mandate to provide those services. Interestingly, the Attorney General just came out with an Attorney General opinion who says fire districts do have the obligation to provide service. And it was in the context of providing services to tribes who don't pay they don't pay taxes, and they may refuse to pay a fire protection fee. Attorney General says you do have that obligation. So we're in a bit of limbo right now. This is kind of a mess. But our interest, of course, from a lawyer standpoint, is trying to minimize the likelihood of liability. There are 3 types of immunities that fire districts enjoy, but they don't they're not comprehensive. And so our challenge is to try and fit within as best we can into one of the boxes. That's what we're doing kind of behind the scenes. And we're working with some other, as I mentioned before, other fire district lawyers in the state to try and get on the same page so that we can provide consistent advice. I just thought I would kind of give some further background on that.
Chief, would it be helpful for us in this law enforcement response to send a letter to county EMS just requesting that they use some of their county EMS funds to put one of these units or more in service to help with this?
I think it would be a
Hold off on that. The commission as a whole is developing something with county EMS right now.
Whatcom County Commissioners?
Right. So we're all on board with finding out what they plan on doing.
Okay, so we need to work through that avenue through you, through that board, to say that I'm assuming everyone on our board is in favor of getting some sort of relief for these types of calls.
They're developing something, but don't expect anything before the end of the year.
No, I wouldn't,
That's
but
kind of a slow roll right
It-
now because nobody knows what the expectation is.
would be nice if,
They're talking about a mobile team similar to what Bellingham's do.
right? They're gonna need more than one. All right. So we'll hold off on that. Figure out a way to work through the County Commissioners Association. Assistant Chief Process is our next item. I know that the levy lid lift was a potential to help with that process. I guess my question is where are we currently with our interim assistant chief? And is that something that's going to last till the end of the year, or?
It will last till the end of the year, but not beyond that.
Okay. Thank you, Sean, if you're out there.
He's listening. Yes, thank you, Sean.
Okay, so we're good through the end of the year. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
All right now.
All right, thank you. I was just worried that maybe Sean was gonna run away screaming, but if he's gonna stick that out.
There every morning when I show up. I
End
keep
of the
waiting.
year, we appreciate that very much. All right, any other unfinished business? New business, resolution 2021-05 surplus bunker gear. That's in our packet. It looks like this is just to outfit the two gentlemen that went to medic school and had the gear already, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Along with all the other supply chain problems, you can't get bunker gear anymore. So we've been loaning our gear. Sorry, Mr. Davis, to the gentleman that went over to BFD earlier this year, and they can't get any. They would just want to buy it. So Chief Ward came up with a prorated amount that they will buy it for, but we need to surplus it first. So.
All right, so we have a resolution before us. Again, it is so that our two former employees can actually have protective gear that was fitted for them that they've worn in the past. So is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-05?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All right, thank you for doing that. All in favor?
Aye.
I hear Kimberly over there. It's unanimous, thanks. All right. Policies and procedures, nothing right now, chief. We talked about the correspondence. We sent a letter out to the work party folks. And then we have our next board meeting is September 16th. Is that gonna work for you, John Crawford?
I have another general announcement if I could.
Yep.
About a week and a half ago, we received our mechanic announced that he was going to retire. Received a letter from him. He's retiring October 1st. Also have Lieutenant Zylstra, who's been out on medical disability for an extended period, has also announced, and his retirement paperwork has been filed for a October 1st retirement as well. So that's two retirements. As far as the planning for the mechanics position, see you in November.
Okay, when is his retirement date?
October 1st.
Okay, so. All right, we'll make it through a month or two and see
See where we're
what
at.
funds we have left. Well, I wish them both well.
Yes.
Circumstances that have led to probably both of those decisions. And
Yes. Unfortunately, that both are not made with.
anyway, we appreciate their service and wish them very well in their future.
Absolutely. And we will recognize them in a smaller setting before they leave. So
All right, so the board meeting on September 16th. Kimberly, you're good. Scott's good. And then John is maybe good. And then if not, we could alter our schedule just by making it a special meeting if we were to alter the time frame. To fit your schedule. All right.
Appreciate that.
Agenda for next meeting, the fire marshal agreement has been tabled. We're gonna probably keep the proclamation 21-14 on there, the contract for services of District 4 on there, the law enforcement de-escalation on there.
should probably stay up.
Levy lid lift update. All right, we need to have an executive session. I don't think it will be too long. And this is per RCW 42.30.110 subsection I. To discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. It is 1:53. Richard, do you have any thoughts on, I'm thinking maybe 10 minutes?
I think so. I don't think it's going to take long. I do want to mention to the chief, I'm going to have to switch from my office here because they're doing roofing work. So I'm going to go to a conference room. So I'm going to sign out and enter in under a different, on a different computer.
Okay, I will, you have the original invite, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look for you.
All right.
All right, so we're gonna break for executive session. I don't expect us to make any decisions after this. This is just to help give us some direction in this contract issue. So yeah, let's break now and reconvene at 2:05.